Well, hello. So I'm Nitin Dahad here with the E-Times, and I'm here with Adam Fletcher, who's the chairman of Electronic Component Supply Network, or ecsn, and they do an annual forecast for the UK and Ireland every year on the electronic component supply chain. And we were here in London today just to talk about some of the forecasts and the trends in the industry. Adam, hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
So, Adam, tell me, first of all, Electronic Component Supply Network, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So the Electronic Component Supply Network looks after components from cradle to grave to rebirth. And we have a number of silos that sit there. So we look at near market research, which feeds into component manufacturers, which is picked up by their manufacturer authorised distributors, and then we look at end of life and obsolescence and how you then reintroduce in a circular economy those products back into the economy. So that's what we do. We're a 53-year-old association. We're a member-managed, not-for-profit association, and we provide a reasonable service for our members in promoting the use of authorised manufacturers of components within the market, and that's an important thing to do, because without manufacturer authorised distributors you wouldn't be able to see the breadth of product that's available today.
So just tell me a little bit about your membership is the distribution community?
Our membership are electronic component manufacturers and distributors, manufacturer authorised distributors primarily, but we also have people who are in the university space who are doing the near market research, and we have people who work in the obsolescence and compliance space as well who support us, and that's part of the whole supply network that we want to look at and that we're responsible for. And if we don't look at it holistically, if you only look at a segment of it, you're really missing the big picture. We want to see it all.
So now today you presented some data, this annual data you present on the forecasts for 2024, but also some of the trends in the industry. Tell us some of the highlights, please.
Yeah, so we've had a very interesting period in the last 3 years in the electronic components market. Most people probably don't realise, but the electronic components market is cyclical globally over an annual period. And so what happens is in the first 2 quarters of the year, Europe, US and Japan grow very strongly, and then they tail off. But the inverse happens in Asia. Asia becomes very strong. Their peak month is at the end of Q3 and into Q4, and then it falls down. So this has a balancing effect across the globe. It means that our capacity of the component manufacturers is evenly spread throughout the year. What happened in COVID was everybody switched off immediately and everybody wanted to switch back on. And so you're trying to now service, a lot more demand than can actually be met. And when that happens, the net result is that lead times escalate. Unfortunately, as lead times escalate, our customers or our members' customers' ERP systems say, well, instead of having N weeks worth of in-house inventory, we now need N plus 16 weeks worth. And that just compounds the entire problem and makes it more difficult. So lead times get worse and worse and worse, and manufacturers get to the point where they say, we're not taking any more orders, and non-cancelable, non-returnable orders. It becomes a nasty time, and bookings go through the roof. Over a period of time, we've managed to meet most of the customers' needs, and we've been very lucky in the UK of doing a very good job with good humour, I must say, with all of our customers. We've managed to rob Peter to pay Paul, and got most of the people most of the product they needed it. But today, in November 2023, what we're seeing is a position where most of our members' customers are holding more in-house inventory than they would normally hold. They're holding that inventory because they're concerned about the lead time and about supply. But as manufacturer lead times have come down now, they've dropped down from being averagely at 26 and 30 weeks plus to being in the 10 to 12 week area.
That's quite a difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
But it's not going to fall below that. We aren't going to go back to the pre-pandemic, it's all available from stock, which is what
just in time.
Well, that's what people had seen for a very long time. There's a generation of people in procurement who were expected components to be available immediately, and that really isn't true. The real lead time on any of the products, you need to be thinking of somewhere between 8 and 12 weeks. If you're planning on 8 and 12 weeks, you're probably carrying the right amount of in-house inventory and safety stock. You've probably got the right amount of cover within the market. But what we've seen over the last certainly 2 years is that bookings went through the roof. So in a normal year, historically we'd expect bookings to be around about 1.05 to 1. 1.05 to 1 says you're going to see around about 4 or 5% growth in the market. That's a healthy number. When you're seeing book-to-bill ratios up at 1.74 to 1, that's just lunatic. So what's happened is an enormous amount of backlog and inventory has gone on, and that ultimately has to be worked out through the cycle.
And what's the implication? Because I think you were talking earlier about, well, we see potentially a stable or slight growth, but then, it's uncertain.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening is the billings aren't changing. Billings are sales revenue. It's what we're shipping to customers every day. What we're shipping to customers every day continues to be reasonably good at the moment. It's been very good throughout 2023. But in 2024, we're thinking certainly in the first half it's going to get a bit tighter because component manufacturers have got their lead time down. Our customers are trying to reduce their lead times and their in-house stocks down as well. And so we're going to go through a period where that backlog gets reduced. And that's inevitable. And that means we get squeezed, and it means when that backlog's being reduced, we don't get the visibility of what the real customer demand is. And so the whole thing gets a little bit out of balance again. Coupled with this is we are in probably the most turbulent political scenario
there are 3 or 4 things going on
that I've ever seen in my working life.
Yeah.
And any one of those could drive a massive change in the market. And so our members' customers are holding that higher inventory in-house because they're trying to mitigate the risk to their manufacturing. You get this, the concept put around by a guy called Eddie Goldratt, who was one of the leaders of full factory synchronization, was that inventory is evil. Inventory is evil if it's not turning. If inventory is turning, it's great value and you have to have it. And if you haven't got inventory, you're in big trouble in the manufacturing environment. So what we're seeing today is manufacturers, OEMs, holding more inventory than they would normally like to.
At high margins.
I wouldn't say they're having a high margin. They've bought it, it's theirs, they've got it, but it does enable them the flexibility to manufacture it, whatever their customers demand, and that's the important bit. Not being able to make stuff, in a manufacturing environment is disastrous.
Okay, yeah. Fundamentally, though, I think you talked about the key markets being industrial and automotive, and those are still driving that, whatever you see in terms of growth.
Yeah, so if we look globally, the driver of the electronic components worldwide is selling mobile phones and infrastructure. Coming up closely behind that is automotive, but they have a different mix of components. So the mix of components that are consumed in Asia Pac, which is where typically mobile phones are made, there are not many mobile phones made in the UK or Europe, their mix is slightly different. So we're having not only to get the capacity right, we're having to get the mix right. But coming up behind that very quickly is automotive, and automotive has another different mix of components. But there are some common parts in there, and the common parts are things like MLCC and commodity memory and other functions. And so they're still very much left to the vagaries of the market. Nobody can really plan that demand, and I think many customers don't realise when you look at things like MLCCs that they're the most manufactured product in the year. You're making trillions of these components. We don't understand
For the viewers that don't know, MLCC stands for?
Multi-level ceramic capacitors. So in your average mobile phone, if you've got an iPhone, it's probably got somewhere between 8 and 1,200 MLCCs in it. If you're in a car, it's got 3,000 to 5,000 MLCCs in it. So, a big change can really really changed that around quite dramatically.
One of the other big data points that came out in your presentation was memory being a big part of the growth. And I think that's memory in
Yes.
AI in data centers, I guess.
Memory is something that we don't play in heavily in the UK, really, because our customer base is very industrial, professional, medical biased, with some automotive and some high-end computing. But really, the memory product is used in data centers and in commercial applications like mobile phones. And that product, the unit volume remains pretty constant. It's the price that changes, and the price changes relative to supply and demand in the market. So if supply is weak, prices drop very quickly. If demand is strong, prices rise.
And that high figure is basically on the high price at the moment.
Correct.
Okay.
So what you're seeing is actually the unit price of a unit produced, the numbers of units produced of memory components is rising slightly, but nothing like the changes you get in the price cycle.
Okay. What's the key message that you think you want to give to the market in UK, Europe?
My key market is, well, my message to everybody is, please engage with your supply partners up and down your supply network. So that's your suppliers and your customers. Figure out what you really need and communicate that effectively up and down your network, because by communicating it, everybody else can then align and try to meet what you need, and everybody wins in that scenario. If you mislead your suppliers or you double order, it really doesn't help the market in the long term. All it does is exacerbate the problem. So please be honest and helpful and collaborate. And our members, bearing in mind, franchised or authorised distributors engage with 99% of the customer base. They will do their very best to deliver what you need when you need it. And if we're all being honest, we can rob and move material around and be flexible and get what you need more or less all the time. And that's what we're trying to do.
And I think the other message from market point of view is it's sort of potentially, yes, small growth, and I think that could be...
Yes, in 2024, we think the market's going to grow in the order of around somewhere between -1% and +2%. So very low growth in 2024, but we're coming off the back of very 2 or 3 years of very high growth. So a year of consolidation is probably very good for the market. It allows us to get everything back in, get all our ducks lined up, get the whole network aligned, and then we can move forward in a much more positive way.
Well, Adam, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.